Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. Forbes India presents the Data Circle, India's Changemakers, in association with Snowflake.
Hello and welcome to Forbes India presents the Data Circle, India's Changemakers in association with Snowflake. I'm Ridu Bhandari. In today's rapidly evolving business landscape, data has emerged as a key driver of innovation, of growth, and of competitive advantage. Organizations across industries are leveraging data to gain deeper insights into customer behavior, into streamlining their operations, and driving strategic decision making. Today, I'm joined by technology leaders who are at the forefront of harnessing data, and they'll share experiences of navigating complexities of the modern economy with the help of data and data analytics. Let me welcome on the show today Bhaskar Gopalan, Vice President Engineering at Razorpay, Tom Devasia, Regional Sales Director at Snowflake, Mahesh Calavai, Chief Digital and AI Officer at TVS Motor, Vineet Shukla, Vice President and Head of Data at Mahindra Group, Braj P., Head Global Digital Center of Excellence and Enterprise Architecture at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, and Prashant Parashar, SVP and Head of Technology at Delhivery. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Each of your organizations, of course, is doing a lot with the data that you are generating, and we are here to know your experiences, your insights, and perhaps peep a little bit into the future of what data is going to do for your respective companies. So, Mahesh, if I can start with you. Now, TVS Motor has been on a digitalization journey for quite some time now. Give us a sense of what you are doing with the data that you're generating in terms of customer experience, in terms of product innovation, or just streamlining your business operations. Any good use cases and examples that you can share with us?
So I'll start with the customer experience. It's in today's world, customer experience is defined by digital experiences. And so we look at digital customer experiences for each of our customer segments in definitive moments of truth. And we look at data-based insights at each moment of truth to improve our customer experience and therefore our overall business results. This is equally true when it comes to our supply chain operations as well. It could be for a metric such as, say, picker efficiency. It could be things like quality of our production. It could be for logistics turnaround time that our companies actually partner together on. So there are a bunch of different use cases that we have.
Right. And we'll dive deeper into those use cases in just a bit. But Vineet, coming to you now, the Mahindra Group is, of course, into many, many diverse sectors. How do you see the role of data driving innovation and driving sustainability across these sectors within the group, and what sort of synergy exists within businesses to for interoperability of data, and what strategies are being implemented to ensure efficient governance of data?
When we look at the role of the data across different set of companies within Mahindra, we can put this into two parts. The part number one is, how do we make sure that across all this organization, we are able to create data as an asset? Once this data as an asset is available, now remember Mahindra is a set of companies, and hence they are all having different data sets. They're all having their own businesses, and hence we cannot have one solution which is fitting into the all. What we do is we start looking at, can we come up with a blueprint by which we are able to create data as an asset for them? So that's charter number one. And then charter number two with respect to the same is, how do I unlock the potential of the data, and we are able to create something called disproportionate business impact. And for that, we need to bring in at times BI, at times machine learning, AI, deep learning, and many of the Gen AI examples are there. And that's how, when some of the things are very BU specific, we let those companies operate in their own manner. We don't let that data to be floating across different organizations. But there are some use cases where these companies need to extend their data set in terms of creating the disproportionate value. So that's how we are able to look at these two aspects differently in order to be able to create, or in order to be able to unlock the potential of the data across.
Right. Okay. So talking of disproportionate value, let me come to you, Bhaskar. Given the importance of data in financial decision making, how does Razorpay really empower businesses with actionable insights from data? Any specific instances where data analytics has, significantly improved business outcomes for some of your B2B clients?
So as we know, last few months, there's been an upsurge in the use of digital payments. However, a large customer base still prefers to use cash on delivery, right? Because they are more comfortable with that mechanism. Now with cash on delivery comes the risk of RTO, which is return to origin, where you return the data, return the product as well, right? Now this could be because of genuine reasons where the end customer doesn't like the product, or there's some problem with the product in terms of the quality, etc., right? Or there could be malicious actors in which merchants want to exhaust the inventory of the competitors. So we offer a product called RTO protection, return to origin, where we use AIML to tell the merchants that potentially this transaction could be RTO'd. So you may want to stop the transaction from going through. And we also have insurance-based products, where if the customer does go through, then we reimburse the merchants, right? So this is one major area in which we are working on, which has benefited the customer. Second is in being in the money movement business, reconciliation is very important. So we do a lot of AI-based reconciliation, which is three-way between the bank, Razorpay, and the customer. And we also have a product called Optimizer, where we route the transactions to the right PA, which is payment aggregator. And we also route the transactions to the right terminals in the banks, so that there's a good balance of success rate and also the cost. So these are a couple of use cases that we are looking at, and we have been quite successful in them.
Right, very interesting. And let me shift gears and also put the spotlight on logistics with you, Prashant. Now, Delhivery, of course, operates in the logistics space, which is heavily reliant on data when it comes to streamlining operations and increasing efficiencies. Give us a sense of how you are leveraging analytics and artificial intelligence to optimize your entire logistics network, and what is that translating into for the end consumer?
So Delhivery is not just a logistics company relying on data. I would say it's a technology first and data first logistics company. The way we started is that we started as a technology company into logistics. So all the actions that happens on the ground, or all the actions that happens in our systems, all are driven by data and all are guided by data only. So right from it starts from taking an order from the client to fulfilling the order ultimately to the consignee or to the end customer. Everything is driven by the technology. Even all the actions that happens on the ground, which truck has to take a package, that is driven by the data. Which truck to be docked on which dock in a warehouse is driven by the data. Whether a shipment is to be loaded on the truck or not to be loaded on truck is also driven by data. So everything completely runs on data. If my data platform doesn't run, or if my technology platforms don't run for a couple of minutes, the operations comes to a stall, because everything is guided by the data. We have built systems that make decision based on all the past data and current data. At the same time, we have systems making decisions as well as the humans making decisions, which is we have control tower setup. So they require real-time visibility onto what truck has reached where, what shipments have been loaded, whether some of the higher priority shipment has not reached where it was supposed to reach. So that also happens through the data.
Okay, so let's also shift gears and move to pharma then. And Braj, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories is, of course, a very key player in the pharma sector. How do you see data-driven technologies such as AI, machine learning, really transforming things like clinical trials, personalized medicine, drug discovery in the future? And how is Dr. Reddy's really leveraging data today, and how are you driving innovation with it?
We, as a traditional pharma company, actually has been in this journey for the last 5 years or so. First of all, we started by having a lot of digitalization in our value chain, which obviously over the years has given us a lot of data. Okay, and then we have all the best practices related to data lakes and all of that. So we are very mature on that. Then we realized, okay, so now we have data. So then that's the next step of the journey, which is data to insights. Okay, and now we're in the third step, which is insights to action. So you mentioned clinical trial, drug discovery, and also those are first part of the value chain, which is R&D in any pharma company. So in our R&D value chain, when you look at filing for for regulatory approval for a drug, today that is actually a completely automated and data-driven decision-making process. The entire approval, the way we file for, let's say US FDA for an approval, and only after which you can get a license and sell. That happens completely through our existing data with predictive algorithms telling which molecule is the right one to target. And then we have a business case preparation recommendation engine, which is again an AI-enabled system, which basically looks at geographies. So whether a drug is going to be more useful in an Indian context or in a European context or a US context. Okay, so that's the drug discovery and the business case process that we take care of that way. Then there are similar processes that are augmented with AI, and these days generative AI in investigations. If something goes wrong in a plant, these are medicines. This is something that we take, which directly affects lives and health. So there is no margin for error. So the investigation in plants or quality labs are completely done via predictive algorithms, and the investigations the reports that have to be filed today are actually done using GenAI. Okay, so the GenAI use case right now is sort of work in progress. We have seen early success, but it's yet to be institutionalized. So that's where we are at this time.
Right. Good to hear that. Well, Tom, you've heard from different diverse industry players here, and Snowflake, of course, has been a key player in enabling these businesses and helping them harness the power of data. How do you foresee the role of cloud data platforms, evolving in future in helping businesses, especially navigate these economic uncertainties that we are living with today?
I think it's a very relevant question in today's time, where we are seeing as Snowflake, a lot of companies adopting cloud or moving to this digital transformation roadmap, right? I was in fact reading a report from IDC where they were mentioning that the world's digital data would grow up to 180 zettabytes by end of 2025, which is just end of next year, right? And half of that data would be on cloud, would be on public clouds, which is going to be up of 20% from where we are today. What it means is in the near future, companies are going to have tons of data of different types. And the bigger problem is, or the bigger challenge that companies would see is, how do I make sense out of it, right? So to your point, cloud data platform companies have a big responsibility to make organizations data-driven, right? And I think Prashant very rightly said that they are not a logistics company, they are a data company, they are a tech company. In our interactions with a lot of companies that we speak today, they take a lot of pride saying that we are a data company today, right? So cloud, yes, does give the scalability, the flexibility, the agility for customers to bring data, but it should also have the ability to make data interoperable with businesses, right? And to your question about what Snowflake is doing there are three areas that we cater to and recommend companies to kind of navigate through this challenge. One is we help by giving a single platform story where we help organizations to have one single copy of data in a unified platform, and most importantly, in a very governed fashion, right? So you've built a repository where all your data, organization data resides together. The second area is the data collaboration piece. What is the data of use if you don't allow it for different business to use it, right? So how do you seamlessly make data available for different business functions without the hassles of the technology part of it? And finally is the monetization. I think that's a very big area that we are supporting a lot of customers. How do you then start monetizing your data and your applications for the benefit of the larger ecosystem? That's essentially where we play a big role in.
Mahesh, the transition to electric vehicles is imminent. It's happening in the post-pandemic world, especially now that we are a lot more cognizant about environment and we are paying more attention, and there's a policy push as well. The global automotive landscape is really set to change. Now, how is TVS really utilizing data analytics to anticipate market trends, to anticipate what the consumer of tomorrow is going to want, and to really also perhaps keep a pulse on sustainability demands of the future? And what are you doing in that regard?
Yeah, a great question. And we leverage data and decisions driven through data and the algorithms that underpin it, predictive algorithms, detective algorithms, prescriptive algorithms in several ways. From first understanding consumer demand, right? So as they look at mobility choices, and because your question was around electric vehicle, as they're looking at electric vehicle driven mobility choices, what are they looking for? It could be the range that they want to drive, right? It could be convenience. Is it for my family? Is it for a commercial use? So we look at a lot of consumer insights driven analytics there, right? Then it comes to the design and manufacturing of the electric vehicle, right? So how do we have the best vehicle out there for our consumers of choice? We also look at for manufacturing and supply chain, right? So We have trackable systems, traceable systems that go from our manufacturing through the supply chain. And ultimately, these are also connected vehicles. Our products themselves are data products, right? So as our consumers, as our customers drive the vehicle, we understand how they're faring the vehicle, so that we can give them additional services so that they can have better driving experience. So we use it in quite a number of ways. That's on the electric vehicle side. Of course, your question was on sustainability, and I covered quite a bit on the E side. But we also leverage data and analytics on societal and governance pieces as well, be it for our non-profit operations or be it for our governance efforts like internal audit.
Right. Prashant, coming to you, when it comes to logistics and delivery, one is what is your data governance and protection strategy? And two, how is it helping you also optimize your routes, your fleet, and ensuring that, the delivery is happening at a much faster pace? You did speak about accuracy earlier. Let's also talk a little bit about speed.
Sure. So, coming on to governance, for us, the privacy and security is a design first approach. So whenever we design a solution, the first thing we take into account is the privacy and security of the data, because we, although don't directly reach out to customers or consignees, but our customers, the Amazon, Flipkart of the world, or TVS or Mahindras of the world, they have the end customer. So we have to ensure that their data is secured, secured from cloud security perspective, API security perspective, and then also from data security perspective. At the same time, we have to follow a life cycle where we have to destroy that data. But at the same time, when we make a delivery and we follow, those shipments follow a certain route, we use that data to understand the locality better, to understand the route better, to understand the our own field executives better, so that we can optimize ultimately onto the routes based on capacity, based on past history. And that's what we do to increase the speed of our service on different lanes, that we use the past data, design our network. In fact, we change our network almost every day, that at what shipment has to follow what network is not static. And we change key parameters of network, just not route, but the kind of vehicle it has to show up to pick up, the kind of vehicle it has to show up for delivery, for different connects from one city to another, and how the shipment is following a certain route. Today, a shipment from, say, Delhi to Mysore might follow one route, tomorrow it can follow another route. So we are very flexible, and that's what our key differentiator is. And that's all based on the data that we have.
Braj, patient care, and also want to know what is it that Dr. Reddy's is doing when it comes to improving patient care, and especially in a sector like pharma, like you said earlier, regulatory compliance is really, really strict. How does data and analytics, how is it helping you in that respect?
So we're a pharma company, so patients are not really our sort of consumers. If you look at only the generics pharma business, so for us, it's actually the physicians. So we've got platforms where there are algorithms to predict for which segment of patients, which kind of physicians are the right targets for us. Okay, and then we have different ways of sort of marketing, and then the digital marketing sort of takes over, right? So that is one. However, to actually answer the patient care question, which are a slightly smaller scale, we also do a lot in digital therapeutics these days. So we actually have the only US FDA approved migraine reliever, which is a small device called Nerivio. It's in Europe right now. I mean, people can buy it. And what that does essentially is by measuring the response to the device progressively at the patient level, it actually determines how the treatment is going to happen. So regulatory compliance happens at two places for us. One is when you're trying to get a license that, okay, I'm now going to get a drug for oncology out. Okay, so that happens much earlier. And that's, to Bhaskar's point, is a ton of documentation. It's kind of paperwork, and it's very complicated because you have to do a lot of research in the journals in market to figure out whether this is the right way to sort of articulate the efficacy of the drug. Right. So that filing today, actually, and this is again work in progress, happens in the combination of machine learning models and RP process automation to basically create that filing dossier, which then will go to US FDA and then you'll get a license eventually. So that's one. And then second one, the more important one is, so everything is done. Now we are actually making the drug in a plant. Now, how do we actually make sure that what we set out to make is what we really ended up making? Because that's when then it gets packaged in a nice box and then goes to people and then they buy and they use it, right? So that quality assurance process is where we are audited. For that to happen, all our systems are actually connected, the data, streaming data comes in, and the predictive algorithms actually tell us when and where we can potentially face a problem. And if we do face a problem, then the investigation happens largely automatically so that people know what are the things that have gone wrong. And then there is always, because it's again pill, so you can't do everything automated. So there are gated approval processes or review processes where humans will enter, the lab scientist will enter, and then they will say, okay, so this is correct, this is a false positive, this is a false negative, and then hence this is what we should do, and then goes through the process.
Interesting, very interesting. Well, Tom, how do you then recommend businesses who are perhaps not yet onto an evolved data strategy? How do you recommend them to approach their entire data strategy? And of course, you know, COVID-19 really accelerated the pace of digitalization in India and everywhere in the world, really. Going forward, how do you see data analytics and AI continuing to drive innovation and resilience in businesses? Because now we are in a world where we have seen a very big black swan event, and perhaps these will become more prevalent and frequent in future. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think, Mridu, this is a very fascinating time that we live in, right? Where a lot of these companies and organizations have realized data is the new economy, right? This is valuable. They understand that today. And Snowflake, having worked with 10,000 plus customers globally, there are three areas that when we partner with organizations, we try to address and we help with the strategy, right? Us being a data company, the first and foremost is help create a data and AI strategy. Many of them mentioned generative AI, LLMs, the data science models. These are new buzzwords, and they are going to be here for the future, right? This is the new norm, and there is a lot of value to this, right? But in our experience, talking to a lot of customers, let's take an example of ChatGPT, right? It has the infrastructure to run large volumes. It has the models that are relevant. But then a lot of organizations hesitate to give their data out to this open source kind of a model, right? And hence, our data strategy is prime importance. What we talk to customers, before you build your AI strategy, you need to have a robust data strategy, right? And that data strategy is nothing but having a unified governed platform with a single copy of data that could be shared and interoperably used by different functions with all the governance and policies in place. In Snowflake, we call it very uniquely, saying that there is a philosophy that we say that data has gravity, which means everything should revolve around the data, right? And data should not go to your application or to your model. And that's what we are kind of working with a lot of other partners to kind of build this structure where your applications, your LLM models, your AI, everything comes to the data itself. I think the third important aspect is the governance part of, right? All of this is good unless you have a governance structure in place. And governance is not just about masking data or not giving access to data, but it's about understanding the entire data lineage of how the data flows from the source till the consumption layer, right? The second important aspect is creating a data culture. And just like any other process, culture requires people and process to be balancedly, be part of this game. For us, data is a boardroom conversation. It is not just a BI discussion. It's not just up to developers, but it's a boardroom conversation. I think the stakeholders are people at a higher level, and they should give the buy-in. We would also say that data should be branded within each organization, right? And I'll give you a good example. We are working with a telco company in APJ, where they've created something called as Dataflix, and that's the brand that they've given for their data. Very similar to what Netflix does, but this is done for data, right? Again, very governed, very structured format, and everybody has access to the data based on their roles, their policies that are in place. Finally, I did mention about this in my earlier point, monetization. I think that's a very big area, and a lot of organizations are looking at it very seriously. I gave the example of London Stock Exchange, but we have another retail giant named Kroger in the US, right? They've built a company called 84.51, which is primarily sharing customer behavioral data, demographic data to the world, right? They're making money out of it. They've invested in building and enriching your data. How do you then start monetizing it? How do you start bringing logic and applications to the world using the marketplace. So these are three areas we definitely partner with customers to help.
Very interesting. Let's also talk a little bit about collaboration. And data collaboration is becoming increasingly important in today's very, very competitive world, and also the interconnected ecosystem that we are in. And Vineet, if I can come to you, at Mahindra Group, how are you leveraging data partnerships and collaborations? And how is that driving business growth and innovation for you?
Sure. Thank you so much. Um, if you look at, first of all, at Mahindra Group, it's not a conglomerate of the company, but it's a federation of the companies, which essentially means that all of these companies are operating in their own manner with respect to how they will be ensuring that their shareholders' returns are maximized, which means that data is very, very private to them. So first of all, we do not have a single asset within Mahindra Group where all of the company's data are together. And hence, as a rule, we don't say that, yes, the data is available, all the data is available for anybody for the use. It should not happen, and it doesn't happen. However, there are quite a few opportunities where this collaboration has to happen, where company A might learn from the good behaviors on top of the data, or good pattern mining on top of the data, and then it can transfer the information to the other company. So we have few projects where we bring in the data from a different set of transactions which are happening across different companies, but we ensure that company one cannot see the transactions of the company B. But still, we are able to come up with some of those models where we can look at the data not from the specific data per person per se, but what is the pattern coming out of it through some of those machine learning models. And we use those patterns to figure it out, are there any cross-selling and upselling opportunities over there? And that's how we are able to leverage some of the collaborations, not by just sharing the data,
Right.
but sharing the
insights from the
data in a very abstracted manner.
Right. Okay. So that ensures privacy and protection, but you're also ensuring business growth by sharing insights.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wonderful to hear that. Bhaskar, coming to you now. Razorpay again possesses a significant volume of data. A lot of digital transactions happening every second, and maybe if you have a number at on how many transactions are happening in a minute or something, you can you can give us that trivia. But
10 million per day.
10 million per day. Okay. So just imagine the amount of data that Razorpay is generating. How are you leveraging analytics then to really combat fraud and ensuring that, you know, there is transaction security when there are 10 million transactions happening in a day?
So potentially there could be two actors, right, who can commit fraud. One is the merchants themselves, or it could be even the end customers. Sometimes it could be a collision between the two as well, right? So merchant specifically, as part of the onboarding process, we use OCR and GenAI technologies to verify things like the shop establishment certificate, partnership deeds and all that, to make sure it is valid. We also scrape the website to make sure they're not selling any prohibitive items. For example, a merchant says that I'm going to sell meat, but on the website, it's alcohol is listed, right? So we prohibit that and flag the merchant, right? Second is, on a continuous basis, we look at things like chargebacks, refunds, and so on to flag the merchants on a continuous basis. So we also do KYC on a continuous basis for the merchants. And we have about 50 different parameters to flag merchants. Similarly, for the transactions also, we have about more than hundreds of parameters using AI ML to find fraudulent transactions based on unusual spending patterns, location, velocity, and things like that. So we have multiple AI models both on the merchant and the transaction side to verify fraud use cases.
Great. Tom, so at Snowflake, how are you innovating in terms of data protection and in terms of privacy management? What are some of the strategies that you recommend to businesses for really enhancing security while also maximizing growth and profitability?
Sure, Madhav. In Snowflake's pursuit to make every organization a data-driven, what we are saying is data has to be freely available for all business to use, right? This is one area where, if not taken care of at a very early stage, could lead to disaster in terms of data proliferation or, exposing PII data as such, right? So by default, from an architecture standpoint, when a data enters into Snowflake's platform, it is, dynamically masked So data masking as a feature is there on REST and Fly as well. But that's not enough, right? Like I mentioned earlier, understanding what is sensitive data to each organization is an important parameter, which is what Snowflake platform identifies. So identifying your sensitive data, there are a lot of these organizations who have global operations, right? I think, Braj mentioned about DRL presence in so many countries. So being compliant to, let's say, the DPDP Act, which is recently introduced in India, GDPR compliance, Snowflake is compliant with all of these regulations. But specifically, if you talk about GDPR, right, it says right from the data creation till how the data is handled, to how it's managed, to how it transforms, to where it's archived, to where it's deleted, all of that should be managed and taken care in terms of an accountability standpoint. So it's a huge responsibility on technology partners like us to kind of take the ownership to kind of keep this track, and which is what I mentioned, that Snowflake has it embedded into the platform itself. Also, the whole data sharing aspect, which is where we are a unique proposition for a lot of companies. What we are eliminating here is the whole data pipeline creation, the technology hassle of a non-authorized user to come and access data, right? Allowing not the data movement, but a view of that data. These are areas where Snowflake is being a very differentiating proposition and helping more from a governance standpoint.
When you look at the future, how are you all respectively kind of future-proofing yourselves by harnessing data for tomorrow? And Mahesh, if I can start with you, IoT, connected vehicles, a lot happening on the automotive front. What is the next big frontier that you are envisioning that TVS Motor should be prepared for when it comes to harnessing data?
Sure. And a lot of our transformation actually is underpinned by digital data and AI for that reason, right? For us, there are few examples I'll talk about. First and foremost is ultimately we are in the service of serving our customers, so customer experience. If you look at all of us, the way we interact are typically through 2D environments today. And that immersion of the 2D environment into the physical world through immersive technologies is a future, right? And so that's certainly a play that we are on right now. The second, of course, is this is going to be the age of AI. So therefore, data does have gravity. So how do we build around data? How do we infuse AI into every aspect of customer experience? And our internal operations is another future proofing that we've embarked on. And the third aspect of it is the defense side, right? So fully with Tom when he said that as organizations think of individual constituents, different facets of data management, and doing that globally, we need to start looking at data as an enterprise asset and therefore pay a lot of attention to the foundations culturally, people, process, technology-wise, such that the future utilities of data that we are not envisioning today are being proved, though you do not know how exactly they're going to be coming to bear.
Bhaskar, coming to you at Razorpay, how are you envisioning the future when it comes to data? Are you seeing any significant shifts in your data strategy going forward?
Yeah, so we are primarily investing in 4 different areas, right? One is data democratization, where the data gets sooner to the, let's say, the product and the business users so that they can have insights and take faster actions. Second is AI and ML democratization. So what we have seen is we are about a 1,000-member engineering organization, and it's not enough if 100 people know how to develop models, right? So we are developing something called citizen data scientists, where more and more people who don't come from a data science background can develop models faster and ship it out. So we are investing a lot on ML and AI platform in that aspect as well. Second is customer-facing data has been more of an enabler for other products like payments, payroll, etc., which are core products for Razorpay. So we are looking at some data-enabled products, which is new. So we are seeing a shift there for the merchants. So we are looking at live data, right? How can the merchants get access to data faster rather than waiting for T+1 or T+2 through reporting means? And also insights where they can come and run analytics on the platform itself using their data. So these are some areas that we are investigating for the future.
Very interesting. Braj, in future, do you think culture is going to play a much greater role when it comes to driving business outcomes with modern technologies, whether it's AI or Gen AI or IoT, etc.? And going forward, what is going to be the Dr. Reddy's Laboratories strategy when it comes to data and everything that you harness from it?
Yeah, both are driven by the company sort of vision, which is good health can't wait. Okay, and it shouldn't. right? So the business is set up with a vision that medicine should be affordable to the masses. Okay, today we have cancer drugs, the generic variations, which are like significantly cheaper than external markets. So in India, so to that effect, I think on the first question, culture to adopt technology to shorten that cycle from discovery of a drug to get it to the masses, right? So that will always continue. There'll be more focus now in transparency in that process, which I think we are sort of pushing very hard on at every step. So today, if you buy a drug, you don't really know, in most cases, you don't really know where it is coming from, how it was made, like the patient, okay? But very soon there'll be a time when the patient will know where exactly it's coming from, where the ingredients coming from, how was this made, okay? So they trust what they're sort of ingesting, okay? So that is going to be a big push as far as generics, pharma, and Dr. Reddy's is concerned. Right. Augmented, obviously, with technology.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, Tom, and ask you that, we are in India, of course, we are at an inflection point when it comes to growth. It is something of a sweet spot, even amongst all the emerging countries. We've set a target of a $10 trillion economy in the next 25 years. Now, do you think the pace of India's growth will actually be defined by how efficiently governments as well as businesses are able to harness data and then act quickly on those insights? How do you see the larger picture, and what is Snowflake going to be doing in the Indian market to kind of support this larger vision?
Yeah, I think you called it out right? We are the 5th largest economy. We are growing economy, but most importantly, we are a digital country today, right? I take so much of pride when I travel outside India that I have to still carry currency for the countries that I travel. In India, I don't have to. I have not seen documents that I've carried from a long time, right? So we are at that point where a lot of this digital transformation is happening, and what we've seen interestingly is the government agencies are in the forefront of this, right? I'm sure many of you are aware here, India is building something called as DPI, which is the Digital Public Infrastructure Ecosystem. And the key idea of DPI is not only to modernize the government agency, but also to kind of create digital building blocks that can be modularly used across businesses and government, right? And the perfect example is UIDI. With the whole data validation, the verification happens over a click of button, right? So India is the next place where a lot of growth is happening. It's already happened, but we see a lot of revolution that's going to come from a data standpoint. From a Snowflake standpoint, we are invested in this country. I was just telling Mahesh some time back, it's been 4 years in our India journey. We are going to abide by all the requirements, especially the data residency. So we are multi-cloud. We are available on AWS and Microsoft as a service today. And we make sure data resides in the country itself. More from a data security standpoint, all of those is compliance that are embedded in the platform. So we want to make sure how we could help companies or how we could help government agencies to kind of cross-collaborate with different agencies, right? Let's say the land department, sharing data with the revenue department, with the transport data department, thereby helping the data policies being implemented quickly. And also helping modernizing some of these customer agencies, right? Customer-facing agencies. That's a priority. So to answer your point, we are invested in the country and we're looking forward to partner with a lot of the government and businesses as well.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing your very, very valuable insights into navigating a complex modern economy using data. Appreciate you joining us here today. Well, that's a wrap on this special session. And until next time, thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.
Forbes India presents the Data Circle, India's Changemakers, in association with Snowflake. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.